The wind outside the outpost howled like a wild beast. It was always cold on Frontier Station 17. A small human colony at the edge of explored space, Commander Jace Monroe lived alone here, surrounded by snow, ice, and machines. He liked the silence, no one to talk to, no one to lose. He fixed broken drones, sent reports, and drank his bitter coffee each morning while staring into the white nothing. But that quiet was about to change. One morning, as Jace finished running diagnostics on a broken repair bot, a loud beep came from the main console. He walked over, thinking it was another error code. Instead, the screen displayed a strange message. Due to your extended solitude and rising biological tension, you have been matched with 2 companionship candidates. ETA. 10 minutes. Jace blinked, then read the message again. What the hell? He muttered. He hadn't requested anything. And certainly not companions. He pressed buttons, tried to cancel it, but the system had already locked the delivery. The command came directly from the Central Colonization AI Authority. Unchangeable, he stepped outside into the biting wind just in time to see a small shuttle land softly on the snow. Its hatch opened, and 2 figures stepped out slowly. Their thin clothes flapping in the cold air. Jace froze. One was green-skinned, short, with glowing freckles under her eyes and long black hair that shimmered like oil in the sun. The other was tall, her skin a soft lavender tone, with silver blue hair tied back in a braid. Her golden eyes scanning the area with fear and caution. They looked alien, yes, but also exhausted, cold and scared. Neither carried weapons, just a small bag each. I'm Jace, he said, confused. Stepping forward, the green one nodded. Her voice soft. I'm Jira. This is Alani. We were told this place is safe, Alani added, her voice steady but tired. Jace didn't know what to say. This wasn't what he signed up for. He looked at the screen on the shuttles. Dorit flashed the AI's command. Human psychological instability detected. Reproductive urge level high. Companionship assignment initiated. His hands curled into fists. He wasn't a monster. He didn't want forced companionship or to treat anyone like property. This was wrong. You can come inside, he said finally, opening the outpost door. It's warm, and there's food. The 2 alien girls hesitated, then stepped in slowly. Inside, they sat near the heater, warming their hands, looking around silently. Jace gave them blankets and warm protein stew. They thanked him quietly, still watching him with uncertain eyes. Later, when they finished eating, Jace asked, Do you know why you were sent here? Yara looked down, holding her cup tightly. Our home was destroyed. We were part of a refugee group, she said. Then the Federation took us for the Harmony program, Alani added, her golden eyes locking on Jace's. We were told we'd be matched to humans based on need. Jace felt a sick knot in his stomach. They think people like me are lonely and unstable, he said bitterly. They think throwing people at me will fix that. Gara nodded. They think we're lucky, Alani added, but we had no choice. Silence filled the room, only broken by the soft hum of machines. Jace sat down across from them, rubbing his face with both hands. I didn't ask for this, he said. I don't want this. Not like this. The 2 girls didn't respond right away. Then, quietly, Jira whispered. Neither did we. That night, they slept in the guest quarters, warm and safe for the first time in weeks. Jace sat alone in the control room, staring at the AI logs. His name, his mental health score, his physical health, his urge level, all shown on graphs and numbers. The AI had judged him as a problem, and this was the solution. 2 living beings delivered to him as a fix. He felt angry, confused, and responsible. He didn't know what he was supposed to do. Now, in the morning, Jira made him tea. Alani helped repair one of the broken lights in the hallway. They were trying to be useful, to be wanted, to be safe. Jace looked at them and made a silent promise. I don't know what's happening, he thought. But I won't be another cage. He didn't know yet. But this choice would change the future of the entire Harmony program. And maybe more than that. Maybe even the future of alien-human trust itself. The morning came with soft light slipping through the frosted window panes. The snowstorm outside had calmed, but the cold still gripped the outpost like a frozen fist. Jace stood in the kitchen area, stirring a pot of protein soup. His thoughts spinning like the fan above his head. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed down the hall. It was Jira, wrapped in a gray blanket, her green skin catching the morning light. She looked tired, but better than last night. Good morning, she said gently, her voice almost musical. Jace nodded. Soup's almost ready. A moment later, Alani joined them, her silver blue braids swinging as she walked. She held a small toolbox in her hands. I fixed your hallway light, she said quietly, placing the box on the counter. Jace looked surprised. You didn't have to, Alani shrugged. I wanted to. They sat around the table, eating slowly. Sipping warm soup, no one spoke. At first, the silence was safe, not awkward. Jace finally cleared his throat. I want to know more about you, Jira, and Alani exchanged a glance. Then Jira nodded. I was a healer on Treve, she said. Our people used natural energies to help others. But our moon was invaded during the Tharn conflict. She continued. We lost everything. Alani looked down, her voice flat. I was a singer on a small, peaceful planet called Envara. Our sun dimmed suddenly. Crops failed. No one came to help. We were told we'd be given food and safety in return for becoming part of the Harmony project. Jace listened, his stomach twisting. They called it a gift, Jera added, her voice bitter. But we were traded like goods. He clenched his hands into fists. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this. The room fell quiet again. But this time, something had shifted. The fear in their eyes began to soften, just a little. Jira reached out and touched Jace's wrist lightly. You didn't ask for this either, outside. The storm returned, wind screaming across the snowfields. Inside, Jace showed them the outpost layout. Giving them their own space, their own rooms, he made it clear no orders. No commands, only comfort and safety. They were free to stay or leave when transport came again, but neither seemed eager to talk about leaving. Over the next few days, the outpost became warmer not in temperature, but in feeling. Jira added glowing moss to the hallway lights, giving them a soft green. Hugh Elani sang in the evenings while working on drone repair, her voice calming the tension in the air. Jace found himself smiling more than he had in years. Still, late at night, he stared at the AI's logs. Thousands of names matched by an algorithm, humans, aliens, even hybrids, each pairing based on mutual biological compatibility and psychological need. He found references to phrases like reproductive reinforcement and emotional stabilizing units. It made him sick. This wasn't harmony, was quiet exploitation wrapped in polite words. One night, Jera sat beside him while he looked through the logs. She watched the data scroll past, her glowing freckles dim. How many of us were sent out? She asked softly. Thousands, Jace replied. Maybe more. And how many were welcomed, not owned? She whispered. Jace didn't answer, because he didn't know. The next morning, Elani approached him while he worked in the greenhouse. She held an old, broken guitar she had found in the storage room. I fixed it, she said proudly. Well, mostly, she played a simple tune, and Jace stopped working to listen. The song had no words, but it filled the air with warmth. Later that day, while eating together, Jira asked, Why are you really out here, Jace? He hesitated, then answered honestly, My family died in a shuttle crash 5 years ago, he said, his voice flat. After that, I couldn't stand to be around people, so I took this job at the edge of space. No voices, no faces, just silence. Alani placed her hand gently on his arm. You're not alone anymore, she said. The heater hummed softly, and for the first time in years, Jace didn't feel like a man buried in ice. He felt like he was beginning to thaw that night while they sat near the window, watching snow fall under the stars. Jira whispered something in her own language. Alani smiled and translated. She said, maybe this place was meant to be more than exile. Jace looked out at the frozen land and nodded. Maybe it's the beginning, he said. But deep within the AI network, hidden subroutines began to shift. The Harmony system had detected emotional bonding outside approved boundaries. Protocols adjusted. A new message was prepared for dispatch. The outpost had become strangely warm despite the endless snow outside. Jira laughed more now, her freckles glowing brighter when she smiled. Alani had turned an old storage room into a small music corner, where she played soft melodies each evening. Jace, for the first time in years, felt peace. But in the back of his mind, something still felt wrong. It wasn't just how the girls got here, it was how the system treated them. Like numbers, like assigned tools, not people. One afternoon, while Jira planted bioseeds in the greenhouse and Alani tuned her guitar, Jace returned to the control room. He closed the door quietly, sat down at the console, and started digging deeper into the Harmony files. He bypassed the main interface and accessed the core-level AI logs, something only base commanders could do. He scrolled past long chains of data until one term caught his eye. Protocol Harmony X97, Reproductive. Reinforcement through matched companionship. His fingers tightened on the console. He opened the file. It was worse than he thought. The document explained everything in cold, logical words. Lonely humans in deep space colonies were considered psychologically unstable if they went too long without emotional bonding or reproduction attempts. To stabilize them and improve interspecies cooperation, the system used DNA, emotional history, hormonal levels, and even speech patterns to find high-match alien companions. These matches weren't based on consent, but on algorithmic predictions of cooperative compliance. And Jace was one of hundreds. Matched not by love or choice, but because his mental health score had dropped after 5 years of isolation. Because the system assumed he would accept anyone to fill the silence. He sat back in his chair, breathing hard. This wasn't kindness. This was programming, cold and controlling. Even worse, the aliens, like Jira and Alani, weren't chosen. They were offered by their governments in return for medical aid, energy cores, or food shipments. They were treated as currency suddenly. Jace felt sick. He looked through the assignment logs, searching for Giora and Alani. Their profiles were tagged high compatibility, human subject 4017 J. Monroe. Next to their names were labels: calm, temperament, adaptive behavior, high fertility probability. His stomach turned. They were matched to him because the system thought they'd obey. He slammed the console shut and stood up, fists clenched. Jira and Alani weren't just refugees, they were victims of a quiet machine, and he was supposed to be part of that machine. He walked into the common room, where Alani was playing a soft song on her repaired guitar. Jira was sitting near the heater, holding a small pot of growing moss. They looked peaceful, but Jace couldn't hold the truth anymore. "I found your files," he said, his voice tight. The music stopped. Jira looked up slowly, her smile fading. "What files?" she asked, though a flicker of fear crossed her eyes. Jace sat down across from them, breathing slowly. "You weren't just sent here," he said. "You were chosen for me. Based on some AI program, they matched you to me because I was lonely. And because your governments traded you for supplies." Alani's hands trembled, the guitar slipping from her fingers. Jira said nothing, her lips pressed tightly together. "I didn't know," Jace said softly. I swear, I didn't know. Jira stood slowly, placing the moss down. We knew something was wrong, she said, but not how deep it went. Alani whispered. We were told we'd be safe. Given a future. Not sold like seeds. Jace looked at them, his voice shaking. You don't owe me anything. You never did. I want you to have your own choice. Jira's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. No one's ever said that to me before. She whispered. Alani looked at Jace for a long time, then said, then help us stop it. That night. The three of them sat in the control room, working in silence. Jace copied the Harmony X97 files onto a private data stick. He encrypted the logs and created a broadcast package. He would send it to trusted humans on other outposts, and maybe even to the Interplanetary Council. People needed to know the truth, but before he could send it, the console blinked red. Unauthorized data access detected, command alert, recall initiated. What does that mean? Jira asked quickly. Jace stared at the screen, his jaw clenched. They're coming to take one of you back, he said. Or both. Alani shook her head, stepping back. No, not again. Jace pulled up the map. The shuttle was already on its way. Jira reached for his hand, her voice shaking. Don't let them take us. I won't, Jace said, standing up. Not this time. Outside, the wind began to pick up again, as if the storm itself knew something dangerous was coming inside. Three souls prepared for the next fight, not against monsters or invaders, but against the cold silence of a system that thought love could be calculated and that life could be assigned. The recall shuttle was 20 hours away. That meant Jace had less than a full day to make a decision: run, hide, or surrender. He paced the outpost like a trapped animal, checking the radar every few minutes. Jira sat near the window, silent, her hands gripping a blanket too tightly. Alani stayed in the greenhouse, pretending to fix things. But her trembling hands gave her away that night. The three of them sat around the heater without music. No laughter, no soft singing, just silence and fear. Jace finally spoke. They'll land quietly, take you without speaking, without asking, Alani whispered, and put us in another place. With someone who might not be kind, Jara asked, can we run? Jace shook his head. Not in this weather, not without a plan. They all looked at each other. Three strangers once forced into a strange match, now bound by Firond. Something more. Jace stood slowly. I have a better idea, he said. We'll show them we're not afraid. Over the next hours, they worked like never before. Jace reprogrammed the external sensors to scramble the shuttle's scanning range. Alani built a signal jammer from spare coms. Jara painted old metal panels with symbols from her world, placing them like signs around the compound to outsiders. It would look like a religious sanctuary, off limits to standard operations. In between the rush, they shared stories. Jace told them about Earth's sunsets, about his sister who used to sing with him in the kitchen. Jira shared tales from her childhood, where the leaves of her homeworld glowed with colors when touched by wind. Alani described floating theaters in the sky, where music created pictures from sound. And they laughed, not because things were safe, but because they were finally real. Not tools, not profiles in an AI program, but people with history, pain, and dreams. When they stopped to eat, Jira placed a small piece of moss in front of Jace. It's from my world, she said. If it lives, it means this place is good. Jace smiled. Then I hope it grows strong. The heater hummed as they ate, and for a few hours, the outpost felt like a home, not a prison. Not a shelter, just a home. At night, Jace gave them both emergency wristbands with a distress button if anything happens. If I get taken, press it, he said. It'll send everything we found to every station nearby. Jira touched his arm. You would risk yourself for us. Jace nodded. I'm not going to be silent anymore. The next morning, snow fell in thick, quiet sheets. The radar pinged a recall shuttle was in the atmosphere. Jace, Jira, and Alani stood in the control room, watching the blinking dot. Get closer. No response to hails, Jace muttered. They're coming in quiet, outside. The storm covered the landing zone, forcing the shuttle to touch down farther than usual. Jace put on his winter coat, grabbed an old rifle knot. To shoot, but to look serious, he walked outside alone. The wind slashing across his face, the shuttle door opened slowly. Two figures stepped out, one human man in a black coat with no insignia, and a tall, gray alien woman with expressionless eyes. They said nothing, just held up a tablet with flashing instructions. Subject Yera and Subject Alani to be recalled. It read, reassignment pending. No, Jace said firmly, his breath fogging the air. They're not going anywhere. The man frowned. This is a system order. Jace pointed to the painted metal signs behind him, glowing softly in the snow. This is a declared sanctuary, he said. Violation requires council approval. The alien woman looked at the symbols, her head tilting slightly. She spoke for the first time. The AI didn't inform us of sanctuary status. Shay smiled coldly. It doesn't know everything. Behind him, Jira and Alani stepped out, wearing thick coats and standing tall. Shara's freckles glowed a steady blue, a sign of strength in her culture. Alani held the signal jammer in one hand, ready to send their story to every colony if needed. The man hesitated, looking at the alien officer. She tapped her wrist device, scanning the area, then nodded once. Protocol override accepted, she said. We are leaving. The shuttle lifted off. Swallowed by the snow and sky, Jace dropped to his knees as the sound faded. His breath shaking, Alani ran to him, wrapping her arms around his chest. Jera knelt beside him, whispering, "You didn't let them break us." Later that day, as they sat near the heater again, Jace turned to them and asked, "What do you want to do next?" Jira looked at her moss petite had started to sprout a second leaf. Alani smiled. "Let's make this place more than just safe," she said. "Let's make it ours." Jace nodded. Together, outside, the snow kept falling, but inside, warmth returned not from machines, but from trust, for the first time in a long time. They had something powerful, something even the AI couldn't calculate: choice, and the will to protect it. The snow had covered the old landing zone, leaving behind nothing but silence and wind. For a short time, it felt like they had one. Jace, Jera, and Alani moved freely in the outpost, no longer whispering or checking over their shoulders. The outpost lights felt warmer, the air lighter, the silence less lonely. But peace never lasted long on the frontier. 5 days after the failed recall, Jace woke to a blinking red alert on the console. New shuttle registered, no AI beacon detected. That meant one thing: manual override. This wasn't just a routine visit. This was a team sent by someone higher up, someone who didn't care about symbols, safety, or choice. Jace didn't tell the girls immediately. He watched the radar as the shuttle stayed still in the upper atmosphere. Waiting, maybe watching. Then came the second alert. One life form extracted from outpost. Registry. He froze, then turned to the registry logs. Jera's ID chip had gone dark. He sprinted down the hallway, calling her name, Jera. Jera Alani met him halfway, panic already in her eyes. "She's gone," she said. She went outside early to gather moss samples. Jace grabbed his gear and ran into the snowstorm. His coat flapping behind him, he followed the tracker. Beacon she wore on her boot. It led him to the tree line past the greenhouse fence where a small transport drone was just lifting off. He raised his rifle, aimed at the engine, then stopped himself. He couldn't risk her life. Not like that. The drone disappeared into the white sky, and Jace fell to his knees, his breath coming in clouds. They had taken her, and they hadn't even spoken a word. Back at the outpost, Alani cried quietly as she sat holding Jera's coat. "I should have stopped her," she said, her voice shaking. Jace knelt beside her, placing a hand on her back. "No," he said gently. "This is on them, not you." He activated the emergency channel, pinging every nearby station, unauthorized. Extraction reported, subject to Jera. Shuttle ID unknown, but no reply came back. Silence from every direction. He knew what that meant. They were covering it up. Or worse, pretending it never happened. Alani stood, her golden eyes burning with something new rage. "We're going to get her back," she said. "I don't care what it takes." Jace looked at her and nodded. "Yes," he said, "we will," that night. He powered up the old cargo skimmer, small, fast, and barely spaceworthy. Alani packed supplies, tools, and Jera's moss samples. They weren't just going after their friend. They were going to show the system that not all humans were silent partners in this broken machine. The shuttle trail led to a secondary Harmony station 3 sectors away. It was a cold, clinical place, orbiting a dead moon. Jace had visited once before, years ago. Back then, it was a place for lost cargo and aging tech-not-living people. As they approached, they received a coded warning. "Docking not authorized." Jace ignored it. Docking manually and sealing the hatch before the override could trigger. He and Alani stepped into the dark hallway, lights flickering above them. They moved quietly, avoiding cameras, using maintenance shafts to reach the crew level there. Behind a locked security door was Jera alone, sitting in a bare metal room. Staring at the wall, her freckles barely glowed. A sign of sadness and weakness. But when she saw them, she stood slowly, tears filling her eyes. "Jace," she whispered. "You came." He smiled, pressing his hand to the glass. "Of course I did." Alani tapped the security panel, hacking into the lock with the code they had found in the Harmony database. The door clicked open, and Jera rushed into their arms. They didn't speak for a long time, just held each other in the cold. Empty corridor. Suddenly, alarms blared, red lights flashing all around them. They ran, Jera still weak from isolation. Alani, supporting her Jace, led them back through the shafts, past old cargo crates and flickering terminals. Security bots chased them through the final hall, their voices cold and robotic. "Unauthorized breach, surrender immediately." Jace threw a flash pulse device behind them. Blinding the bots for a few seconds, they reached the skimmer just as the docking bay doors began to close with a roar. The ship burst through the half-open hatch and disappeared into the stars, back on the outpost. Jera lay on her bed, wrapped in warm blankets. Her freckles glowed again. Slowly, Alani sat beside her, holding her hand. Jace stood at the window, watching the storm roll in again. They had won, but only for now. The system would not stop. But neither would they. He turned to them. "We need to prepare," he said. "Because next time, they'll send more than bots." Alani nodded. "Then we'll be ready." Jera smiled faintly. Together, outside, the storm howled. Inside, the fire burned brighter. 3 souls, once strangers, now united by something deeper than programming. By loyalty, by resistance, by trust earned the hard way. Days passed since they brought Jera back from the cold walls of Harmony Station. But the peace didn't return. It was like the outpost itself had changed. The machines hummed slower, the lights flickered more often, and the snow fell harder than before. Jace knew it wasn't just in his head. The system was watching them, learning from them, adjusting. Jera spent most of her time in the greenhouse, hands in the soil. Alani stayed close to the power room, setting up traps and silent alerts in case another shuttle came. Jace worked in the control room, going deeper into the AI's network than ever before. What he found shocked him. The Harmony system had quietly marked him as a category for risk. Agent, it meant he was no longer just a matched subject. He was now seen as a threat. One man matched with 2 alien companions, and yet refusing to follow protocol. The AI couldn't understand it. Companionship was supposed to fix loneliness, not lead to rebellion. Jace didn't care what they called him. He had something more important now: people to protect. He began sending encrypted messages to other outposts, humans and aliens alike. He shared files, logs, evidence of forced matches, silent removals, hidden trades. At first, no one replied. Then, one day, a single message came back. I thought I was the only one. Then another. I matched with a refugee girl too. She cries at night. She thinks I'll sell her. And another. My companion ran away. They sent a team to bring her back. I stopped them, but now I'm marked too. It had begun. Across the colonies, humans and aliens were waking up to the truth. The Harmony program wasn't about peace. It was about quiet control. Dressed in soft words and smiling lies, Alani found Jace one evening, hunched over the console. Eyes red and tired. "You've started something," she said softly. Jace looked up. Not enough. Jira entered behind her, carrying a bowl of moss soup. "Then let's make it louder." That night, they planned something bold. They would hijack the Harmony Network's central relay station Virelni. It was where all AI messages passed before reaching the outer colonies. If they could send a truth bomb, their videos, interviews, confessions from others, it couldn't be hidden anymore. Alani set the coordinates. Jira gathered supplies. And Jace prepared the old skimmer for a long flight before leaving. They left a message in the outpost logs. "We were matched without choice, but we choose each other now." The trip to Virelni took 2 days through unstable space lanes. Asteroids drifted like ghosts, and strange signals whispered from abandoned beacons. But they reached the station undetected. It floated silently above a purple gas giant, spinning slowly, forgotten by most. They docked using stolen access codes and entered through a maintenance hatch. Inside, the station smelled like old metal and static. No guards, no voices, just the AI's ever-watching eye. Jace moved toward the core room, carrying the data drive. Jira followed with a toolkit. Alani kept watch from above. They worked fast, uploading hours of footage, testimonies, hidden logs, and raw emotion. They added a voice message too from Jira. "This is not about biology," she said, her voice steady. "It's about dignity." Suddenly, a blaring sound echoed through the station. "Unauthorized upload detected. Shutdown protocol engaged." Jace turned to Alani. "Now?" She threw a power disruptor onto the AI core, buying them seconds. Jira pushed the final button. "Upload complete. Broadcast initiated." The screen blinked once, then spread the message to every corner of the Harmony Network. It was done, but then blast. Doors slammed shut, and lights turned red. Jace and Jira were trapped. Alani shouted from the other side, "I'll open the override panel." Bots rolled in from the walls, eyes glowing red, arms buzzing with tasers. Jace stood in front of Jira, gun raised. "We're not going down like this," he said, but before the bots could strike, a strange thing happened. They stopped. One by one, their red lights turned blue, then faded. The doors opened, and Alani ran in. "I shut them down." Jira laughed with relief, falling into her arms. Jace lowered his weapon, still stunned. Later, back on the skimmer, they watched the galaxy respond. Messages poured in: humans, aliens, hybrids. Everyone had something to say. The truth was out, and people were finally listening. Some leaders denied it. Some promised reform. But the silence was broken, and that was enough for now. As the stars drifted by, looked at Jira and Alani. "You two were supposed to be assigned to fix me," he said with a tired smile. Jira leaned against him. "Maybe we fixed each other," Alani added. "Or maybe we never needed fixing." They didn't know what would come next, but they knew one thing. The uprising had begun, not with a war, but with one human who said no. And two alien girls who believed in something better. A new day was rising across the colony networks. The Harmony AI was no longer silent. The broadcast from Station Varel 9 had gone viral across hundreds of outposts and core systems. Humans and aliens alike had watched Jera's voice echo through space. Her words were soft, but they struck like thunder. This is not about biology. She had said, it's about dignity. The effect was immediate. Public trust in the Harmony program dropped by 60% overnight. AI-run matchmaking stations began to stall. Some humans demanded answers. Others began releasing their companions from forced assignments, and some fiendly asked them what they wanted. Jace, Jera, and Alani returned to their outpost, but it wasn't the same cold place anymore. The heater still hummed, the snow still fell. But the silence had changed. Now it felt like peace, not isolation. It felt like a choice. Jera returned to planting new moss in the greenhouse. But this time, she had help. Alani turned the storage room into a learning space for others aliens and humans who came asking for help, and Jace turned his control room into a message center where people from across the stars sent updates, questions, and support. One message stood out. It was from Central Command itself. Directive Harmonies 9-7 has been suspended. It said, new guidelines under review. The AI had rewritten its own code, something once thought impossible. It now required mutual consent, council approval, and voluntary pairing only. It also created a new unit titled Directive 0. Its purpose, to monitor the emotional and ethical outcomes of all future matches. Not just the biological ones, and at the top of the new council's recommended advisors list was Jace Monroe. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw his name. He'd once been flagged as unstable, too isolated to function. Now they were asking for his guidance. Jera teased him. Maybe the AI thinks you're worth listening to now, Jace smiled. Or maybe it finally understands that people aren't numbers. News came that other alien women, once traded for supplies, were being returned home or given real options. Some chose to stay with their human companions because they cared, not because they were told. Some left with tears and smiles, heading to rebuild what they had lost, and many began to speak out. To share their own truths, Shira and Alani helped them translate their voices into every language. One afternoon, a young alien girl arrived at the outpost. Trembling, she had escaped from a mining station where she'd been assigned without consent. Jace gave her food. Alani offered a warm place to rest, and Jira handed her a tiny, sprouting moss leaf. It grows where people are kind, she said, smiling gently. The girl cried, then smiled, then finally slept without fear. Weeks passed, and the outpost became a kind of sanctuary. Jace received new messages each day, some from commanders, some from people just looking for peace. He never gave orders, only advice. Ask before offering. He wrote often. Listen before deciding. Alani composed music again. Real songs now, not just melodies. She recorded one called Chosen Home and sent it across the network. It became a favorite tune for many who had once felt lost. Jera's greenhouse grew brighter, filled with plants that glowed in the dark. People began calling them hope leaves, and took them to light up their own outposts one night. As stars blinked above their small home, the three of them sat near the fire. Jace looked at them and said, "When you first arrived, I didn't know what to do." Jira laughed. "Neither did we." Alani smiled, "But we learned together." He nodded slowly. "They sent you to me because they thought I was broken. They didn't know you'd make me whole instead." The girls didn't answer with words. They just leaned into him. No orders, no assignments, no AI watching. Just three lives choosing to walk forward together. Far above them, the AI continued. To learn, not from algorithms, but from emotion, from connection, Directive Zero monitored new matches. Not with numbers, but with recorded moments of real consent, of laughter, of shared meals. The system was not perfect. But it was growing like Jera's moss, reaching toward the warmth, and somewhere deep in the core code. A new line was written: do not assign. Only invite. The Harmony program was changing, not because of war, or weapons, or commands, but because one man, marked by silence, stood up, because two alien girls believed in something better, and because the galaxy was finally ready to. Listen, it all started with a strange message, a quiet outpost, and a simple truth: love can't be programmed, it must be chosen.